Have you ever felt like you are not good enough for your job? Are you worried that you're going to be found out as a fraud, despite there being evidence on the contrary? We're going to talk about imposter syndrome. Welcome to the What's Eating You podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie, and I'm a psychologist, published author, and public speaker here to educate and validate. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to another episode on the What's Eating You podcast. I'm recording live from Bali and I'm having the best time. For those who don't know, I am here with the Women's Fitness Academy. Basically, they create courses and accreditations for women studying to be personal trainers. And we run these retreats or these edu vacations where the women can complete their practical work, get lots of workshops, build their skills, improve their professional development. And I'm so honored and happy to be here to educate these women on eating disorders, disordered eating, so they can recognize it happening in the industry and also provide workshops on your vision and your why. And this month, I had a brand new presentation on conquering imposter syndrome and building unstoppable confidence. Now, the presentation went so well. The girls absolutely loved it. So I thought I would do a podcast episode on it so you can get all the benefits from it. And if you're wanting to join me on a retreat, I am running my first ever retreat this October. Make sure you get in touch. There is a link where you can book a retreat call. I'll pop it in the show notes below. But yes, if you want to learn from me and other experts from around the world in a range of different soul topics, make sure that you send me an email or click the link, whatever is easiest for you, and we can have a chat about it. Imposter syndrome. Over 50% of us experience it at some point in our lives. I'm going to go through 4 questions and I want you to see how many you tick yes or no to. Then we're going to break down what imposter syndrome is, who gets it, where it comes from, and what you can do about it. Question number 1. Do you hate making a mistake, being less than fully prepared, or not doing things perfectly? Yes or no? 2. Do you worry that others will find out that you're not as capable as they think you are? Yes or no? 3. When you do succeed, do you think, phew, I fooled them this time, but I may not be so lucky next time? Yes or no? Final question. Do you attribute your success to luck or timing rather than your own skills or talents? Yes or no? If you answered yes to majority of these questions, you are likely to be experiencing imposter syndrome. So what is it? It is a psychological experience of feeling like a fake or a phony despite genuine success that you have achieved. It can show up in the context of your work, your relationships, your friendships, or overall. It's a very common and frustrating phenomenon because it holds us back from the self-confidence we've earned and deserve to feel. So basically, even if you have the degree, even if you have the qualification, even if you have the job, all this evidence doesn't stop you thinking that you're not good enough for it. So what does imposter syndrome feel like? It feels like an inability to realistically assess your competence and skills. You attribute your success to external factors. So, for example, you might say, oh, the test was just easy, or, they interviewed not many people for that job, so that's why I got it. You berate your performance. Oh, it was just a fluke. You have a fear that you won't live up to expectations. Overachieving. Sabotaging your own success, so getting in your own way. Self-doubt. And setting very challenging goals and feeling disappointed when you fall short. Now, there are certain people who are more at risk of getting imposter syndrome. Let's see if you fit this criteria. High achievers, people who have achieved significant success or hold high positions, often feel they do not deserve their accomplishments. They attribute their success to luck or external factors rather than their own abilities. Perfectionists. Individuals with perfectionistic tendencies set extremely high standards for themselves and feel like failures if they don't meet these standards. Now, I don't really get imposter syndrome, and I didn't really get it early on. Maybe when I was an early career psychologist, I felt a little bit nervous because there were things that maybe were out of my comfort zone, but I never shied away or I never felt like I was going to be found out. And I think that's because I don't have perfectionism. And a lot of imposter syndrome people have perfectionistic tendencies. And I don't think I do. And I think that's one of the reason I don't get it. 3, students and professionals. People in competitive or high pressure environments, such as students in prestigious universities or professionals in demanding careers, may feel they don't measure up to their peers. So I did this workshop because many people in the fitness and health industry experience this because it is such a competitive, high pressure environment. Underrepresented groups, so people from minority groups, including women in a male dominated field, can feel added pressure to prove themselves, leading to imposter feelings. And finally, creative individuals. If you're an artist, a writer, or in another type of creative industry, you might doubt the value that you can bring to the table because, especially growing up, we're always told to, oh, there's no money in art, or become a doctor, or study this. I think in Western society, that's really influenced, whereas the arts is downplayed. Now, where does it come from? It comes from social pressure and comparison. People can feel imposter syndrome because of their environment. It can come from your work environment too. So if you work in like a law firm or you work somewhere where there's a lot of comparison, people put up against each other, where I guess your abilities are really valued and people feel that pressure. It comes from family background. If you had very strict parents growing up, the research shows that you're more likely to experience imposter syndrome. If you had those parents who would say you have to become a doctor, then you feel that added pressure. Personality traits. People with anxiety, neuroticism, or low self-esteem are more likely to have imposter syndrome. And the last one is cognitive distortions, which are unhelpful thinking traps. I might do an episode on the 10 unhelpful thinking traps, but an example of an unhelpful thinking trap is black and white thinking. So thinking, I'm never going to get better. Things always go this way. I have been bad today. So it's using that infinite or finite language. So if you're listening to this episode, I really want you to consider why and when you feel imposter syndrome. When does it show up for you? Does it show up when you are at work? Does it show up because you're studying? Does it show up when you go to post on social media? Does it show up when you're around your family? When does it come up for you? 2, I want you to ask yourself, why do I need to experience this? Or not why do I need to experience this, but why do I feel this? What are the thoughts linked to it? Is it because I think I don't have enough experience? Is it because I think other people post better content than me? Is it because I think, oh, I need to be a certain weight, shape, and size to be successful? Now, it can come in many shapes and forms. So I just want you to consider, why do you feel it? Where did it come from? How long have you felt it for? When did you first notice it come up? Was it when you started working in the industry for the first time? And here's an interesting question that many people can't answer. What would need to happen for you to not feel this way? So if you woke up tomorrow and your imposter syndrome was absolutely gone and you did not feel this way, what would be different in your life? Have a think about that and grab a pen and paper and write down some notes. What many people find is they don't have an answer. They don't know because they're like, I've got the experience or I've got the credential. I don't actually know. But that question can help you reflect on it, because if it is something you can change, then sure, go do it. But here's the kicker. Succeeding doesn't get rid of imposter syndrome. It actually makes it worse. So the more you succeed and the more you put success as the solution to getting rid of imposter syndrome, the worse it gets, because you continue to outsource the validation of yourself. You don't believe in yourself, you doubt yourself, and you're constantly relying on external factors to validate yourself. Okay, so succeeding doesn't get rid of imposter syndrome. So you're probably thinking, what does, Steph? You have to change it through your thoughts and your beliefs. So the first thing is get rid of the idea you have to succeed at everything you do. I'm going to go through 3 helpful tips. A lot of people with imposter syndrome are perfectionists. They think they have to be great at everything. But to be honest, what makes you more confident is becoming more competent. And I have a great episode on confidence and part 1 on imposter syndrome. If you haven't listened to it, scroll down and you'll find it. I'll link it in the show notes as well. But get rid of this idea that you have to be good at everything you do. Anything you try, you are going to suck at first. Think of the first time you learned to ride a bike. Okay, you probably weren't very good, but you had to keep persisting in order to get better. There's been sports, there's been activities I've tried, and believe me, I'm a competitive person and I want to be good at everything, but there's going to be things you're not good at, and that's okay. So get this idea that you have to be good at everything, you have to do well at it. And if you think this way, just reflect on where it came from. A lot of people have their parents in their ears saying you have to be the best, but the truth is you don't. Number 2 is I want you to change your perspective on imposter syndrome. Stop seeing it as a bad thing. It's actually an indication that you are probably out of your comfort zone, and that is what you want. And this sort of ties into number 1, which was get comfortable with uncomfortability. Get comfortable with failure. Everyone is so afraid of failure, but you need to be excited for failure because failure means first attempt in learning. You're not failing unless you aren't trying. The real failure is not trying something and living a life unfulfilled. I always say it's not failure, it's feedback. So rather than fearing failure, I think people need to fear not trying. Now, when we talk about changing our perspective on imposter syndrome, when you feel this way, remind yourself that I feel this way because I'm probably outside my comfort zone, and this is a good thing. I want you to ask yourself, when you feel imposter syndrome, what is your interpretation? Are you saying I'm scared, I'm not good enough, I'm not confident, I'm not prepared, I can't do this? Or are you saying to yourself, this is really normal, I'm supposed to feel this way, I'm ready? Because this is a sign of growth. It means you were in the right place at the right time. Everyone who is great started being inexperienced and felt incapable. We all get the feeling, but what's important is the story we tell ourselves that creates imposter syndrome. I'll give you an example. When I was asked to be on the project with 2 hours' notice to talk about a topic that I don't usually talk about, I said to myself, you are a professional. This is what you do. So anytime I'm asked to be on TV, a podcast, a radio show, whatever it is, I don't have much time. I have 2 hours notice. And what I say to myself is, instead of I can't do this, I don't know the topic well, it's not my area of expertise. Obviously, if it's really outside my scope of practice, I'm not going to do it. But I say to myself, you are a professional. This is what you do. And within an hour, I can master a topic because I go into this zone. I have this skill. I have this ability to remember information because I practice this. I tell myself, I am a professional. This is what I do. It's like when people get on stage for the first time, you think, how do they know what to do? They tell themselves that they know what to do. And the more they get on stage, the more comfortable they feel. For example, people in the gym, I was watching some athletes in the gym and I watched this YouTube and she says to herself, I am a champion. I am a champion. I am a champion with every single rep. And that is how she gets through lifting some of the heaviest and hardest weights of her life. And she actually is a world champion. So I want you to ask yourself, what is the story you're telling yourself if you're feeling imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome isn't evidence that you're in the wrong situation. It isn't evidence that you're not capable. It's evidence that you're in the right situation because you're pushing yourself towards your goals and your dreams. And guess what? That is not comfortable. So the final thing I will say is change your thoughts and beliefs when it comes to everything you do in your life. If you want to wake up more confident tomorrow, think, how do I need to walk? How do I need to talk? How do I need to act? Because people think I'll be more confident when I lose the weight. I'll be more confident when I get this new job. But confidence, it's a vibe, it's a energy, it's how you show up, it's how you stand, it's how you look into someone's eyes. It's how you maintain eye contact. It's how you smile. And 70% of our language is in our body language. So if you're someone who wants to become more confident, visualize that confident version of yourself, embody that, and wake up tomorrow and start to be that person, even if you don't feel like it. I hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as I've enjoyed teaching you all about it. Remember, imposter syndrome, it's going to come, it's going to go, no matter how skilled and qualified you are. If you want to get rid of it, you need to recognize it as something positive. You need to say, this is normal. I'm meant to experience this because I'm a professional and I need to be here. Change your self-talk. Make your self-talk align with the person you want to be, and then you'll start to become that person. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you take a screenshot and share on Instagram. I can't wait to see you next time. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I am truly grateful for you being here. If you got something out of today's show, please take a moment to leave a rating or review. To access more resources or support, check out the show notes below. See you next time.